Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The Frank Smith bribery and extortion trial continues in the magistrate's court.
Hackers take over the servers of the national broadcaster. Find out their demands straight ahead.
The aviation minister gives an update on the crackdown for hackers.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. More than 16 months after it began, the Frank Smith extortion and bribery trial is starting to wind down. The case resumed today with Smith's defense team presenting a no-case submission before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson-Pratt. During their lengthy arguments that was led by Jamaican QC Keith Knight, the defense tore into star witness Barbara Hanna as they labeled her a dishonest person who consistently contradicted herself on the stand. Jasmine Brown has more.
The case continued here in the magistrate's court, where the defense entered a no-case submission in the matter. In court today, Smith was flanked by family members who have been by his side since he was charged in 2017. Joining them today was former Deputy Prime Minister and current opposition leader Philip Brave Davis. Smith, who was a former PLP Senator and Public Hospitals Authority Chairman, is accused of extorting $60,000 from owner of Magic Touch cleaning company Barbara Hanna after prosecutors allege he assisted her in obtaining a contract to clean the critical care unit of Princess Margaret Hospital while he served as chairman of the Public Hospitals Authority. Knight argued their no-case submission by first attacking the charges brought against his client. Knight contended that his client could not have committed extortion or bribery, as the $500,000 contract in question was approved by the board on December 23, 2015, months before Hanna said she had approached Smith about getting the contract. Hanna had previously testified under oath that she had approached Davis, who was the then Works Minister, in March 2016, and that he had given her certain instructions to speak with Smith, which she testified she did on that same day. Knight argued that with the contract already awarded, there was no way his client could have assisted her in getting the contract. Knight also pointed out that there was no evidence presented in court that Smith and Hanna had ever met before 2016, so his client could not have assisted her in getting the already awarded contract, a premise he says all the charges are based on. Knight then hammered on Hanna's credibility, labeling her dishonest, as he pointed out inconsistencies in her testimony. Knight said in life there are some people who lie for a reason and some people who just lie. He says it appears Hanna did both and even lies on herself. Knight also insisted that if Hanna's testimony is to be believed, she would be an accomplice to a crime and should never have been awarded a new $1.8 million cleaning contract by the current health minister, Dr. Dwayne Sands, in November 2017, the same month she began her testimony in the trial. Knight said that new contract gave Hanna a motive to lie. He also pointed to several discrepancies in her testimony, including when she testified that she did not recognize her own husband's name on a banking document and when she testified she did not recognize her son's signature on a loan document. Knight questioned how the chief magistrate, who is the tribunal of fact, could rely on Hanna's untruthful testimony. As he wrapped up his arguments, Knight insisted lead prosecutor Edward Jenkins, QC, should rise and concede in the matter. The case is expected to resume on Wednesday morning, with the prosecution arguing against the defense's no-case submission. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Well, Social Services Minister Frankie Campbell had an interesting exchange with reporters outside Cabinet this morning after being asked about the increase in rape incidents. 2018 brought about a 6% rise in rape compared to 2017. And when asked about it by reporters, the Social Services Minister went on the defense, pushing away microphones, insisting it's not his business.
I wanted to ask you about the increase in the number of reported rapes last year. Is there anything being done from the social services primary prevention standpoint?
Someone told me early this year that there are 12 months in the year. Spend the first 6 months minding my business, the next 6 months staying out of other people's business, and I'll be fine. Don't ask me about rapes. Try to keep me out of other people's lanes. I like to talk about my stuff. Don't ask me about rapes.
Okay. I'm not certain.
Just last October, rape was an issue discussed by Campbell and his delegation at the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women meeting in Geneva, Switzerland. But there was more to Campbell's exchange this morning. Another reporter then asked the minister, how does rape and violence against women not come under his ministry?
No, she was talking about the increase of rapes.
Yeah. So
increase of rapes.
So you don't feel like from a social services standpoint there's work to be done in terms of...
You're talking about crime. You're talking about crime prevention. Social services is about for people who need food, people who need social assistance. Okay. You can see I'm trying to avoid that. I don't avoid talking to you, but I want to stay in my lane.
Okay.
In other news, hackers took over the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas' servers yesterday and demanded $18,000 in order to regain control of its system. Today, the Minister of National Security said it was only a matter of time before an incident of this nature took place. Jared Higgs has more.
Now, according to high-ranking ZNS executives, those hackers wanted payment in Bitcoin, but ZNS officials say they aren't paying up.
This is the world that we're living in today. And, this is certainly the first of its kind that would have been reported here in the Bahamas.
In the wake of a ransom demand of $18,000 from ZNS by individuals believed to be international players, National Security Minister Marvin Dame says officials foresaw that an incident like this one could take place.
This is something that, in our planning, that we have certainly been anticipating, and as an organization, we're working assiduously to equip the police force for these types of modern-day challenges.
Speaking to the Nassau Guardian on Monday evening, Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas Chairman Mike Smith confirmed the $18,000 ransom demand. He says the corporation realized in the early part of the day that it had been hacked and was contacted by email by someone from out of the country who wanted a ransom for the corporation to access its servers. He also added that after meeting with IT advisors locally and also with the police cybercrimes unit, the corporation decided that it would not pay the ransom. If they had paid the sum, the corporation would have added to a global cost that Dame says exceeds $5 billion.
I think last year it was estimated that ransomware alone, as a form of cybercrime, netted its global cost was somewhere in the area of, $5 billion in 2017.
The BCB chairman says the digital intrusion rendered the corporation's computers useless. On Tuesday, Smith confirmed that the corporation's servers were still down. However, he reiterated that they would not pay the ransom. Dame says it isn't an uncommon occurrence, pointing to a popular premium cable channel that was hacked ahead of the release of a highly anticipated TV series.
When HBO was about to release its new episode of Games of Thrones, that was hacked, and the ransomware criminals were able to steal a significant amount of episodes of that particular series.
Those hackers, who were later revealed to be Iranian, demanded $6 million from HBO. It is unclear if HBO paid the ransom. As for ZNS, officials there have indicated that they expect the corporation servers to be down for at least another week.
So the police are on top of it. We just have to see where it ends up.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, a crackdown on hackers in the aviation ministry is forthcoming. The issue came to light last year after a Piper Aztec carrying 6 people crashed in waters of Mastic Point, Andros. The aviation minister said they were hoping the regulations would be rolled out ahead of the anniversary of that crash, but promised they would come soon. Jillian Gray reports.
Just 2 days before the anniversary of the Andros plane crash, Aviation Minister Dionisio de Aguilar says they are still working on a plan to combat hackers. As it stands, he says the plan is to frustrate hackers rather than completely destroy the industry.
We're all very mindful of that date, and I was hoping that we would be able to roll something out prior to that date. And I'm hoping that we are, if not, we're not going to meet that deadline, that it's very close there too. But I know that, as I say, there's been a lot of work done on how best to regulate this industry, properly regulate, without actually crushing the conduct of commerce by air. And we want to ensure that we're not bogged down with legal and judicial reviews and legal pushback. So it's always a lot more difficult than you think.
The problem of hackers came to light last year after it was discovered that the Piper Aztec plane that went down in waters off Mastic Point on January 17, 2018 was piloted by a man who was in breach of his private license. Pilot Darren Clark had about 250 logged flights, which is the minimum required for a commercial license. However, officials said they doubt that an airline would have hired him to fly commercially with so few logged hours. The aviation minister said their number one goal is to ensure pilots have the proper regulatory paperwork, and added that the Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority is close to rolling out revised regulations as soon as their conversation with stakeholders is complete.
Yes, we want to ensure that the traveling public are in planes and piloted by pilots who are properly licensed and have all the necessary qualifications and paperwork, up-to-date paperwork. We do want to ensure that, everybody is properly licensed before they fly a plane for Bahamians moving within the islands. So I think he's very close to saying something. I just need to find out what and when.
Now, during the investigation into the failed flight of pilot Byron Ferguson, it was revealed that he had to pass several Family Island airports because their lights were not in operation. When asked for an update, the aviation minister said there are still 2 Family Islands whose runways do not have lights.
Given the fact that Marsh Harbour is the second busiest airport in the country, I directed him to take those uninstalled lights destined for Acklins and Crooked Island and put them into Marsh Harbour. And we expect that the lights for Acklins and Crooked Island to be here either at the end of this week or the beginning of next week.
While the former aviation minister said she ensured lights were at all airports, Diaghilev said based on their assessment, some of those lights were not operational. He lamented the fact that 50% of the lights at Marsh Harbour are not working, but said they are working to fix that and all other issues at Family Island airports.
I'm a little annoyed, I have to say, that, it was allowed to deteriorate to that level, so I've instructed the chairman of the airport authority and the general manager of the airport authority to give me a report on all the airports, the status of all of the lights, and to ensure that that situation, certainly at our second busiest airport, is not repeated.
Reporting for our News, I'm Julian Gray.
Thanks, Jillian. A report by the Auditor General has alleged that employees at the Department of Education defrauded the government of nearly $450,000 by manipulating a system for stipends. The Education Minister said he and his team are now going through all the details of that initial investigation.
I'm in the process of reviewing that report, and I'm beginning to determine, along with my executive team and the advice from the Attorney General's office, as to where we go. Has there been a particular act of criminality or recklessness or carelessness or anything that is a violation of the Financial Administration Audit Act? Whatever it is, the Attorney General is going to advise. But in this moment, I'm just simply reviewing it along with, again, my team, and we will determine precisely what happens after that.
Lloyd added that government expects to complete its review in a matter of days, and if disciplinary measures must be taken, he has no problem with the law taking its course.
If it is true, according to the report, if it has been found that a public officer has abused his or her position for personal gain, if that is so, then obviously disciplinary measures need to follow. Personally, and as a minister, I am deeply disappointed that the trust that has been placed and reposed in public offices by the Bahamian people have been abused. And to the extent that that is so, those officers should be made to pay, meaning there should be disciplinary action of the most severe kind depending on the degree of infraction that has been committed.
Still to come, the PLP chairman questioning the Prime Minister's trip to Belgium, plus the latest on a prisoner's escape. That's coming up when our news returns.